I really, really, really would have loved to have heard a video that actually says that. So where all of the videos and all of the information and all of the preparation is about be prepared and plan for this and do that. Actually, guess what? I'm going to tell you the opposite. I'm going to tell you don't overplan. So in this video, I'm going to share 3 tips for what you shouldn't do to prepare for postpartum. So when you look up how to prepare for postpartum, a lot of the stuff is really typical, and a lot of it is focused on recovering your body or meal prep and different kind of things like that. But I would have really found a video like I'm going to make now. I would have found this video really helpful because I don't see that there's enough people kind of talking about these 3 little things. That's silly. That's silly. And when you look up postpartum prep, there's a lot of videos on exercising and what you should do and how to recover, and a lot of it is just kind of very generalized, like you should meal prep, you should do this, you should, some people even suggest like, oh, you should clear a space in your house for, I don't know, whatever, for you to be able to nurse comfortably. And I think actually the first tip I'm going to give, so instead of 3 tips, it's going to be 4 now accidentally. The first tip I'm going to say is actually everyone's postpartum experience, which obviously goes without saying. Everyone's postpartum experience is going to be really different. So what might work for one person might not work for you at all, or might not even make sense, even if it's something as simple as meal prepping. And I actually have an example of that myself. So we didn't meal prep at all, and I'll get into that in a second. So that's my first tip, is if you see something that seems like a really good idea, like, oh, have a really comfortable designated nursing space in the bedroom because you're really going to make use of that, and that's going to be something you really need, and it's going to really help you with your postpartum. Well, guess what? The thing is, you might end up having a C-section and you might not be able to move from bed, right? You might have stitches like I did. I had to get stitches for 2nd and 3rd degree tears. I'm not exactly sure. I can't even remember. And, even though I could move and I could walk, it was a very limited mobility and walk. I was not myself at all. So, really the fact of the matter is that you have no idea what your postpartum is going to look like until you're in it. And really, I think that's my first tip. And I wish someone had really told me that, because like I said, when you look around, when you talk to people, everyone's going to suggest the kind of stuff that really helped them or that worked for them. But like I said, it's almost like it doesn't really take into account that, hey, guess what? That might not work for you. This isn't the way to do it. This isn't the way to prepare for postpartum. This is what you have to do. This is just like, those are things that worked for those people, but it might not work for you. So just keep that in mind. You really are not going to know what you need in postpartum or how you're really going to feel. There might be some general things that are similar because we're going to go through a similar experience as women. But, there's details that are just not going to be the same for everyone, because everyone's going to be having a different experience. I mean, even 2 women who have a C-section, one woman might recover one way and another woman might recover another way. Just a sec. So yeah, your experience is going to be your experience, and it's going to be very different to someone else's. So that's my first tip. My first tip is, no matter what you watch, what you think about, blah, 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 remember that you might not really know everything that you're going to need until you're in the moment. And that's actually going to take me into my second tip, which was originally my first tip, which is try not to plan for everything. So I really like to plan things and be organized. What are we going to do on the days where I might not be able to go grocery shopping? Like, kind of trying to plan and preempt for different scenarios. I thought that was prudent. Like, let's have a few extra things in the freezer because blah, blah, blah. Let's maybe meal prep because, to preempt certain times or days where I know it's going to be harder for me to do this or that. And what ended up happening? What ended up happening was that none of that stuff actually happened like that. So I think don't worry. going into the postpartum period. Don't overplan. I really, really, really would have loved to have heard a video that actually says that. So where all of the videos and all of the information and all of the preparation is about be prepared and plan for this and do that. Actually, guess what? I'm going to tell you the opposite. I'm going to tell you, don't overplan. Don't try and be over-prepared. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to have it all figured out. It's okay. You're not going to have it all figured out. It's inevitably not going to be something that you're going to have figured out. But especially if it's your first time around, like, I would have really loved to have heard that as a first-time mom. I would have really liked to have heard, guess what? Everyone's going to tell you have to have it all figured out for the postpartum period, like figured out in terms of like planning and do your meal prep and blah, blah, blah. But I really would have benefited from hearing that it's okay not to have it figured out. It's okay not to have planned out what you're going to do on certain days, certain occasions, certain situations. Don't worry, right? I would have really liked to have heard that. So if you're a first-time mom, or if you're a second or third-time mom and you're looking for a different type of tips for postpartum, has come the time for the postpartum period. You will certainly figure it out then when things make more sense and more things are in play. So that's my second tip. My third tip, my third tip is kind of similar in the sense of like, don't try and have it all figured out. Don't try and plan for everything. So instead of applying that concept, don't try and plan for everything, don't try and have everything figured out. Instead of applying that now to like I was explaining, general situations and moments, now I want you to think about that in terms of things that you need. So again, when I was trying to prepare for postpartum, the stuff that was said to me, the videos I watched, the things that you can see online about preparation for postpartum, it's all about what you should do, right? It's all about the things you have to have. Here's how to set up the perfect nursery so you're ready for postpartum, how to set up this, blah, 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 all the things you need to do, all the things you need to buy. So my third tip is the same as my second tip. Don't try and have it all figured out. Don't try and have it all planned. But as it applies to purchases, right? So this is more about trying to overbuy everything just to make sure that you have it just in case you need it. So a really great example for this of my own... Sally, stop. Sally! No, shh, gently. So a really great example of this in terms of purchases for me was the diaper bin. So again, everywhere you look, literally everywhere you look, almost everyone you talk to, they're like, yeah, have the diaper bin because you're definitely gonna need it, yada yada. Okay, so that was even like on my baby shower wish list and stuff, and I thought, yeah, I'm definitely gonna like need that, right? A diaper bin. Well, guess what? We didn't need it. And it's something like £40, and then the refills cost money. That would have been an expense that I would have bought just because like everyone says you need to have that to be prepared for your nursery. You need to have that to be prepared for postpartum. You don't want to be running around trying to figure out where you're going to put the diapers. Like, well, that basically just like never happened. I was never running around trying to figure out where I'm going to put the diapers. I just literally put them in the diaper bag and just left them, and then just put them in like the correct, disposed of it the correct way the next day, right? In terms of purchases, there's so many things like that, you know, you are probably going to discover as you go through your postpartum period. And you can definitely figure it out as you go, and you're not going to be any worse off. So don't try and overplan and overprepare by buying everything that you think you might need, because I remember that I felt very overwhelmed trying to figure it all out. There wasn't like advice or chatter about don't worry about it. Everything was about like, no, buy this, no, figure this out, no, think about this, what about this, think about that. And I really would have benefited from a damn video that would have been like, don't worry. Don't try and think about everything. And don't try and have it all figured out. Like I've said like 100 times in this video, it's okay. Like you it's not possible to have it all figured out. It just isn't. And it's unrealistic. And it's just gonna, in a moment where you're under so much stress already, the last thing you need is to be overwhelmed thinking about everything that you think you need. I really, really wish that someone would have said that to me, really, you know? And I remember my mom, you know, said that to me and stuff. But what I'm trying to say is like the general chatter out there in the world is not that. because obviously people need you to buy stuff. So they're not going to tell you, don't worry, don't buy, don't do this, don't do that. They're going to tell you, no, be prepared, do this, make sure you have that, make sure you buy this thing, make sure you buy that thing. And, you know, again, like I'm saying, this is why I started this channel. So my last tip, which is now my 4th tip because I added an extra one, is don't buy clothing in advance or in preparation for your postpartum period. Don't do that. I did that because, again, I was trying to prepare for everything and plan for everything like I explained. And guess what? It really bit me in the ass because I didn't use any of the clothes that I thought I would use for the postpartum period, right? I bought stuff because I thought, oh, that's going to be really comfortable and loose, but it's going to be nice. I won't feel like a slob. I bought it because I thought, oh, that's going to be really comfortable for breastfeeding. But guess what? It just didn't work out that way. First of all, your body is going to transform a lot. So your size, your shape, everything's going to change. How you feel is going to change. So, you know, for example, I bought a couple of dresses that I thought would be really comfortable, but they look nice, but also great for breastfeeding. I was like, great, these seem to check all the boxes of what I want and what I need. But guess what? You just change so much after you give birth and as you're going through this journey that you might not want those clothes that you bought 5 months ago in preparation for this moment. You might just want to buy yourself something new or something different. Or the clothes that you thought were comfortable for that aren't comfortable because, like I said, your size and your shape is different. Even though you were big when you were pregnant, now you've lost most of that weight, but you're still different. Like, you still have a different shape and your hips are still a different size. And, you know, even if, so say you bought it, like, for example, this is what happened to me. I bought a couple of items and they fit me great whilst I was pregnant and they were comfortable. So I thought, well, once the pregnancy weight is gone, they're going to be even more comfortable. But that wasn't the case at all. They weren't more comfortable. It was more difficult and more annoying because then I was breastfeeding. The things that you think are really easy and really comfortable might not be. So don't buy clothing in advance. This is one of my biggest tips. So basically the takeaway from this entire video is try not to buy too much in advance, because the truth is, until you're in the postpartum period, until you're going through it, you really don't know what you're going to need. So you don't want to overbuy stuff that you're going to just end up not using. Like I said, from diaper bins to meal prepping to clothing, because I did that. These were the mistakes that I made. I didn't buy the diaper bin, thank God, or other items that were suggested as essentials. But I did buy the clothing. I did buy clothing in advance for this period, thinking that I was going to use it. And it turns out I didn't use any of it. So it really would have been helpful. You're going to feel different in yourself. You might not want to wear those things. You might not feel comfortable in that color or that print or that shape or that style. And that is so true, you know. So you really going to go through a big transformation, and it's not worth buying clothing in advance for that. Because you just don't know what's going to fit. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know what you're going to feel comfortable in. You don't know what you're going to want to wear. You don't know what you might find easy for your particular journey, whether that's bottle feeding or breastfeeding. At the end of the day, the baby needs to be fed, and you're going to have to do that in some way, or a mix of both. Not to mention that process changes as you go on. So the way you're breastfeeding at the newborn phase is going to be different to how you're breastfeeding 6 months in, a year in, right? Because the best thing to do is when you're in that moment and you know how you're breastfeeding or how you're bottle feeding and what you feel you need and how you think you might be comfortable. Once you're in that moment, then go out and buy those things. So in my next video, I'm going to give tips of what you should do, what you should buy, and what you should do to prepare for postpartum. These were the tips of like what you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't buy, and what you shouldn't be trying to think about. But yeah, hopefully that all made sense and you found it really useful. Like I said, I would have really found a video like this super useful when I was trying to prepare for postpartum. It would have really helped to have heard someone saying, don't worry, don't try and figure it out, don't try and plan for everything, don't try and buy in advance, Don't try and think of everything that you're going to need, because it's not possible. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.